Hello everyone and welcome to Festival of Women Now 2020, a 3-week festival, interdisciplinary festival that celebrates and amplifies the work of women creatives, change makers and thought leaders. In general, it's about women championing the works of other women. And this year, we're bringing Now 2020 in a digital format and brought to you free. Because of that, I'm appealing to you to consider donating to TCare. Your contributions will go a long way in supporting Now and his endeavors, and most importantly, in supporting the creatives, freelance collaborators that help to make Now possible. And what is TCare? TCare is established by T-Works. It's a fundraising initiative that supports projects led by women that makes the borders between art and life more porous. And not only that, it supports these projects that make an impact in society. This year, TCare supports 7 projects, and they are the Codet Project, led by Nurul Jihada Hussein, Keeping Hope Alive, led by Fionn Phua, Project X, with Vanessa Ho, Sherry Shakisha, and Wani, It's Raining Raincoats, led by Deepa Swaminathan, Project Julia Street, co-founded by Eva Limson, 3 Pumpkins, led by Lin Shiyun, and of course, Now, helmed by myself. If you are in a position to give, do consider contributing to TCare. Your contributions will be divided equally and shared between these 7 projects. Thank you very much. For more information on TCare, you can click onto giving.sg and search for TCare, or visit the Now website at notordinarywork.com.
All right. Hello. Hi,
All
everyone.
right. Hello.
Hi. Hi,
Oh my
Lisa.
god. I'm sorry that I kind of cheated a little bit because I cannot do my eyes properly without a proper mirror. So
That's
we're
fine.
gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So to everyone, I guess, who has tuned in, thank you for tuning in. First of all, I'm Stephanie Chan, and
I'm
this is
Li
Li Ting.
Ting, Li Ting Tan, and coming to you from. I'm actually not in Taipei right now. I'm in the eastern part of Taiwan in a place called
Oh,
Jiaoxi.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, I guess we're here to talk a little bit about drag kings, and I think there's been several discussions already on the Now program about drag kings. I think there was a reading 2 days ago and then a discussion last night. We're actually going to talk a little bit more about the actual, I guess, dragging of, I don't know how to put it, but Steph, you're a
Practice,
drag king.
the practice of being drag kings, I guess.
Yes, the practice of being drag kings. And I guess we should start, I think, talking from like, maybe I'll ask you and then you ask me. So like, Steph, like, how did you get into drag and why did you start drag? Why did you start
Um,
drag and how did you get into drag?
so I've been doing drag since 2016, I think. And I've been doing, specifically drag, being a drag king since 2016. And I think I was just excited by the idea of being on stage, but being able to sort of like command attention on stage as someone, I guess, who was raised female without having to look like super feminine. Because I never thought of myself as someone who could really pull off being super feminine and or
Mm.
conventionally attractive, I guess, and feminine. But I realized I felt more attractive sort of being sort of masculine. Then I discovered drag kings were a thing. I saw a drag king performance and I was like, wow, I'm glad they exist and I want to do that.
Mm. And so I understand you actually started as a bio queen before you.
So no, actually, I
I
started
don't
as a
know if
drag
that's
king.
something. Sorry, that was my bad.
It's okay. So
But you've also
it's a weird sort of winding road.
and sorry, I'm just
And
thinking about like how I'm gonna draw my face using this.
okay,
It's my
that's
first time
fine.
doing it live in front of somebody.
Oh, nice. All the better. So
Also,
essentially,
yeah,
yeah. So essentially, I started actually as
yeah.
a
So
burlesque performer.
a burlesque performer, yes. And what? How do you? How does that kind of sink in with being a king, and like what's special about burlesque that you think kind of is related
I
to
I
your
think
king
like
journey?
yeah. Originally, I was more excited by burlesque than drag because
Mm,
I'd seen more burlesque performances and I liked how everyone could be kind of different. And I'd seen a lot of weird burlesque stuff like
mm,
um, in the UK and elsewhere. And I think I just like the idea of like being able to be creative and like playing with people's ideas of like taking off clothes because there is like traditional burlesque and then there's
mm,
like really weird stuff
mm.
like those performance with I saw a performance with like a girl taking off all her clothes. You see her from the back, and when she's almost naked, she turns around. She's wearing a David Cameron mask.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Or like people in all kinds of like. So I like the idea of like subverting things on stage. And so I got the chance to be part of this sort of progressive burlesque group in Singapore called Skin
Mm,
and Sin, set up
yes.
by Becca DeBus, and they were putting on a show for the Fringe Festival, M1 Fringe Festival in
Mm,
2017. And so I answered the open call. I was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to be a drag king. And so I got in and I realized that there's this whole part of burlesque where there is space to be like a male burlesque performer, not have to be in drag
mhm,
and as a drag
mm,
queen. And so I
mm.
realized I got really fascinated by this whole like being masculine but also sexy, but also sort of like toying with people's ideas about stuff. So
Yeah.
it was sort of a learning curve because I had to learn how to be sort of like masculine, learn about taking off clothes, learn about dancing, all in the space of like a few months. And
And
yeah, how about
uh,
yourself?
my drag journey, I was always fascinated by. I think I found out about drag kings in the mid 2010s, like 2015, 2014. And I think at that time, it wasn't something that was as well known as drag queens.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, and I didn't think, I just wanted to point out we both are right now doing our contours. To
yes,
We should maybe talk a little bit about how that works, but in a bit.
yeah,
But I discovered it, and then I was kind of doing my approach to it was a lot more academic. I was reading a lot about it. I was following performances, and at some point I moved to Taiwan in 2018, and one of the first things that I did, and you know how moving abroad sort of you don't really meet people in the first few
yeah,
months of like
yeah,
coming here, and you're kind of like, oh, I miss chicken rice
yeah,
and whatever.
yeah,
Ironically, there's
yeah.
good chicken rice in Taipei, but
Oh, no.
um, I happened to see so I happened to get with like there's a sort of a AFAB I guess queer like meetup kind of thing
Oh,
where
nice.
people, yeah, so like it's an online community, and then I saw that that somebody was um uh gonna be holding like a drag king salon, which
Oh,
sounded
sweet.
a really fun thing to do. And so
Yeah, yeah.
in my loneliness moving here, I went to this drag king salon, and I met and me being me, and me being a theater practitioner and working on theater time, I was the earliest there because it said it
Okay.
was going to start at 1, but nobody showed up till like maybe 2 or
Okay.
3, and so I was there at like
Yeah.
12:45, and
Okay.
it's scared the whole. And then we got into discussions about drag kings, and so I met this drag king called Sawyer Darling,
Oh,
Sawyer
nice.
Darling is like our drag. Sawyer Darling is like the drag daddy of Taipei because they are based in Taipei,
Oh.
and they've been doing drag here
Mhm.
for a while. And
Mhm.
so they had started drag king salon, and several of us went. And so from there, I didn't really get into it until I looks fun. Sort of running around with a bunch of kings, and they all, some are very dear friends right now. And
Mhm.
well, mostly we have a crew of about 7 to 8 kings.
Oh, nice.
Um, and slowly kind of doing our own sort of like shows, and then kind of getting gigs, slowly kind of building this drag king
Yeah.
thing in Taipei.
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know what, this looks fun. And I kind of always felt like, if you're going to study it, you might as well do it. So
Mhm. So you
I
decided you
started
wanted to do
to
it.
yeah, and it's something that I was interested in for a very long time.
Okay.
My area of interest is the performance of masculinity. And
Mm-hmm.
I have, I've read so much about the theory. I've also kind of found some ways to put it in practice in my work in the process of doing my master's here. And I think it was a natural progression to kind of go to this. I wouldn't say extreme, but it is very fun and extreme. It's an
Mm-hmm.
extreme sport sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When things are flying all over the place while you're performing,
Yeah.
trying to focus. And so that's my journey. I've only performed drag, I think, well, because of COVID, it's been a little hard to actually have performances in Taiwan, even though, in contrast to the rest of the world, a lot of performing arts are still kind of
Happening.
functioning like normal. hmm But the events that we used to do, and at this bar
Mhm.
in Taipei, they were cancelled for a bit due to COVID,
Mm.
due to other circumstances. So the last show that we did was in February. Uh,
Oh.
that was also when I made my debut in drag, and I think just
Mm.
the of it was in just the for that 3 minutes, I was somebody I never thought I would be. And
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
I mean I'm not a performer by training. I think a lot of people who know me would know that. And I just felt like drag was like the one thing that I could feel,
Mhm.
you know, free doing. Like I wasn't like I wouldn't be like clamming up, or like just I think the idea of being in this much makeup
Mm. Mm.
just helps,
Yeah. Yeah.
for me to be able to sort of stand in public and do something and not feel the nerves. But I was nervous as hell the whole
Mm.
time, and I was like shaking. And also,
Mm.
in a bar, so we're doing it for tips. So after a while,
Yeah.
you just sort of like, I'm just looking out for all the dollar bills that are appearing, and like
Yeah.
just picking it up and just going with the flow. But that is my drag journey, and we're coming back. We're making a comeback. There's going to be a show next week, actually, in August,
Oh, sweet.
and we do a show every month in Taipei, and different kings. I will talk about the different kings, I think, in a
Yeah.
bit, but
Yeah.
essentially that's what it is, and that's my journey. And it was really more just an interest of like, if you're already looking at what masculinity and performance is, then drag kings just seems like the right
Mm.
thing to look at. I just never thought
Yeah.
that I would be in it. Like I was ready to like keep my distance and kind of look at it from an academic point of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's the journey, I think.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I just of it. It's interesting because it is a performance of masculinity. It is often also seen as I am impersonating a man. I mean, drag kings came from a tradition of uh,
Impersonation.
yeah, male impersonation in the sort of cabaret,
Mm.
burlesque, um,
Mm.
music hall traditions. I think in Europe, especially in England and the US.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's more than just transforming into a man. I mean, I know you're watching the process of us transforming right now, and I think it's. I
Although
don't think.
we haven't said exactly what we're
Yeah, we should
transforming.
talk a little bit about what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I've cheated and drawn my eyebrows first,
Mhm.
but uh, what essentially we're doing, I think Steph and I are going through the same process now. We're going through a process of contouring, but in the traditional sense of makeup, when you're contouring, I guess for a female face, um, what we're doing here is trying to highlight or exaggerate in a sense.
Yeah, or
Uh,
create sort of like bone
yeah,
structure, I guess.
more bone structure
Yeah.
in the face. Yeah.
Yeah.
We seem to have a question
Yeah.
from
Got a question.
Erica. Yeah.
Lo-
How different are drag kings from cross dressers? Well, uh, do you have something you can say in relation to that
I
first while
mean,
I try and draw my forehead
I'm
here?
not. I don't have a clear idea on the term of cross dressing because I don't personally use it a lot.
Mm.
I would say, yeah, I'd say being a drag king is more than just cross dressing. It's creating a character. It is also, I think cross dressing suggests that there's like you have to cross gender lines, and so I guess the first thing is that not everyone who's a drag king is a woman, or there are
Yeah,
uh,
actually, that is.
male drag kings. There's both
Well, I'm a
cis.
non-binary drag king,
Yeah,
so
and I'm also non-binary as
yeah,
well. So
so we're both
there's a
non-binary
lot
drag kings.
of
Yeah.
yeah. So technically, I feel like I don't know. Cross-dressing suggests there's like again like two gender binary kind of thing, and a lot of drag kings. Some of them are in the process of transitioning. Some um, sort of like I think a lot of people, it helps a lot of people to sort of like figure out gender. I think, or to find like be more free in their gender.
Hmm.
There are still lots of like women who are drag kings, but I think in the same way that lots of drag queens are also trans women and also cis
Yes,
women stuff like
exactly.
that. So
Yeah,
I would say
bio queen.
it's not exactly putting on the clothes and like of a different gender for some people, and even if it is, I'd say it's still um, not just cross dressing because it's also performance. It's also about
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
compare it to like creating your own show, creating your own world, your own fantasy.
and I also think um I don't know. I feel like I have to go into my college days when we first encountered this discussion. The difference, one of the first sort of things that we talked about in performance theory class was the between cross dressing and drag.
Mm,
And I think cross dressing tries to kind of be more low. Like cross dressing, you usually cross dress to pass um, as the other gender. So if you were assigned male at birth and you wanted to dress in a feminine sense, and you won't call attention to the idea that you're doing that. I mean, and I probably will discuss that in a bit. But cross dressing, generally is to pass. Whereas drag kings, I kind of want you to know that I am not um, assigned male at birth, or I am not someone with male genitalia.
mm,
I'm not sure if I can say that, but the idea is that I'm not a male body. Yes, I wasn't assigned male at birth, and so I want you to know that. I want to draw attention to the fact that I am not. I am literally performing the idea of masculinity and the idea of being a man. Um, Whereas I think cross dressing would be a lot more low key and less about being in your face about it. So I think the
mm.
key difference is that, and I think if anyone has more about this it's just going to be a lot of me and Steph discussing things we already kind of really like to discuss. So if you're okay
Yeah.
with listening to us doing that, but we also welcome you to ask us questions. You can at the bottom of this page if you comment
Mm.
uh, and send us some questions. We'll be happy to talk about it. It doesn't have to be just about drag. I think we also aim to talk a little bit about
Gender.
gender and being non-binary in a sense. I think.
Yeah. I guess we could talk about that
And
as
also,
well.
if you have personal questions, yeah.
Yeah.
So Cairo has a question. Why do you think drag kings are not as prominent as drag queens in mainstream media? Uh, well, I think when you think about drag queens, you think immediately about RuPaul, maybe Divine. But I think the most sort of queen and most sort of mainstream well-known drag queen is RuPaul. Drag Race has been running for how many seasons? Drag Race,
12, 13,
yeah, like
at least,
almost. And then they've done All Stars, and then they've had people come back, and
different countries.
So I think the idea of drag queens is definitely more accepted in the mainstream because they've had a show, like you could show about it for years. But yeah, I think that's one
My,
reason.
yeah, I think my own sort of like more maybe conspiracy reason is I think because drag kings come from lesbian culture, and lesbian culture itself is very invisible in the mainstream,
That yes.
and you can't exact drag kings unless again talk about fetishization, but you can't really. It's also drag kings don't really appeal to the male gaze, or in any sense.
I feel like we need to explain what the male gaze
Oh yeah,
is.
yeah. Okay. Basically, the average cis straight man in power who controls the media, not controls the media, but like has a lot of power in society. Um, they're not interested in seeing lesbians who don't look feminine, or they're less interested in that.
Mm,
And drag kings are all about like getting rid of femininity, hiding it, and basically being a parody of some of them want to be a parody of patriarchy and sort of make fun of it. And so, I mean,
yeah,
it was still struggling to get lesbian representation, butch lesbian representation, especially in the
yeah.
media. And so I feel like drag kings are just like a very underground, still a very niche thing.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it also comes down to, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up this butch thing, because that is always my piece, an area
Yeah,
of interest, and
yeah,
and I think butchness has always, I think, been associated with sort of ugliness. Um,
mm,
Although there's a lot of things that we can discuss about what that means, but just to kind of quote one of my favorite writers about this, Jack Halberstam,
mm.
who wrote this book called Female Masculinity, which I feel like most lesbian academics or anybody who identifies as butch might have heard of them. Uh, Halberstam in Female Masculinity, talks a lot about butchness and talks a lot about masculinity that's not on a male body or assigned male at birth body, and which essentially just means that you have a penis, and I think it has something to do with the fact that butchness was never for men. Butchness was a sort of using masculinity for your own sort of, I won't say gain, but for like your own identity and your
Yeah.
own assurance. Yeah. And
Mm-mm.
I think in that construct, um, when you're who is not dressing the way a man wants you to, when you're a woman who uh, is is not in a place to be objectified from a gaze somewhere, then I think it's hard for mainstream media to accept that, because so much of mainstream media is for uh,
I guess very
the
straight
male
people.
gaze,
Yeah,
for
straight
straight
straight people.
people, for straight men actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
straight people.
I
You
have
got
a
a
question
question?
here that is directly related. I'm curious, what is drag king in Chinese? 变装国王.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
essentially because drag queen is 变装王后, 皇后. I need my speech coach to help me here, but it's 变装国王. And yeah, so that's a direct answer to that question.
Nice.
No, yeah. So coming back to the gays and butch and things like that, I think one of the other reasons why drag kings are not as prominent is that it seeks. I feel like drag kings just most people just don't know about us yet. I think most people are curious, but there's also unless you're in the know. Like I had no idea that Steph was doing drag in 2016. Like
Yeah.
and and I only left for Taiwan in like 2018. I had no idea that there was a drag king scene in Singapore.
There
And
still
when I
isn't.
came here, like not really a scene, but then there are several drag kings, right? Like I know of
There's a few,
yourself, and there's a few of you who perform. And
yeah.
then in Taipei, in Taiwan, the drag king scene is still centered in Taipei, and unfortunately, at this moment, there are like about 6 or 7 of us, and only two of the drag kings are of Taiwanese descent. Are Taiwanese. Only one of them actually grew up in Taiwan. Like the other person had spent some time in the States and had access to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is about how much access you have to it, and a lot of the kings and queens. Okay, we'll come to that in a bit. We just had a question pop up, but a lot of the kings and queens, the whole drag culture, I think a lot of it has to do with being in the know, and I think speaking English is a very big plus for this. But in the queen scene in Taiwan, it's not like this. I mean, local drag. But also the scene is populated by a large number of expats. I, happen to be here as a foreigner, and I happen to have had these at this information, and it was just by pure, I think, fate and luck, 缘分, as we say, that I met a bunch of drag kings here. Yeah, so I really think it's about getting stuff out there. And if you Google is such a great thing right now, you just kind of search and actually you'll find so many kings. I think a lot of the kings that we first encountered over the internet.
Yeah,
Steph.
yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with why when I guess we're coming for you, we're getting there. We're trying to be more prominent. But I do think it's still going to take a while before, like, you're going to see a drag king show like Drag Race, or if you're going to even see a drag king, Drag Race.
Yeah,
I think the performances are still different, though.
Possibly, yeah.
Which is actually nice because then Becca the Bus, hello Becca, has just asked a question to what we're talking about. Can you talk about the performance you make? What is it? What context does it exist in? What is important about it for you? Do you want to take this first? I might need some time too.
So Becca de Bus was the person who set up the burlesque group that gave me the chance to explore this more and gave me a stage, several stages. And I think for me, it's currently the I think context is really important for me. Generally, I realize that the people I enjoy performing for most are sort of like smaller audiences, sort of like groups with more maybe younger people, more maybe younger queer people, sort of like a lot of like young queer women or queer AFAB people, and so right now I perform sort of more for. I set up a cabaret called the Queer of the Year Cabaret with Amazing Person Worms last year, and part of that I will admit was so I could get myself a stage, and that was sort of like giving having a smaller audience.
If you do it this year, can I come back and do it?
Oh yeah.
I don't have to serve like 14 days home notices on both sides of the country.
You're invited. You will. It could be online this year, so even easier. so yeah, so I think the context is that I guess I do it for people who are like similar to me, maybe slightly less commercial context. And so my character is called Aloysius D. And at first it started off as like, I want to be basically make fun of privileged Chinese boys and basically like Crazy Rich Asians type of boys, and just be like this douchebag kind of guy. My first performance as sort of this character was actually a poetry night where I like acted as huge pretentious poet who had just come
Nice.
from Oxford. My very first performance as
Nice.
Aloysius as drag was I just like come back from MIT and I heard someone home and started taking off my clothes, and I think it was also sort of a way to like make fun of myself and deal with my own privilege as well. And I think I heard this great thing from people afterwards, and they said I enjoyed it, but it was really painful to watch because I kept seeing myself in it. And this is like middle class artists, and they're like, it was too real for me. So yeah, so in that, I did not expect people to make people uncomfortable in that sense, but I'm glad that happened. And now I think it's turned into more of sort of like I'm less interested in like doing the parodies and like satire, and more interested in like just exploring different different ways to like play with masculinity, wearing more colorful makeup, more just seeing where I can push the boundaries of masculinity, like and just like seeing like less about want to make fun of these people, but more about what else could I get away with. So in terms of like colorful makeup, like
Mm,
ridiculous clothes, I turned into a
mm.
fly in one of my performances, um, that sort of thing.
I wanted as a
And
penguin.
oh, nice.
I don't know how this is gonna work out, but that's the goal
Yeah,
at some point.
I think you should. You have to. You have to. I think the last
Yeah.
question is. I really like the last question. What is important? What is important about it to you? I think it's just showing. I think a lot of people have gotten really excited. Like young queer people gotten really excited because they didn't know that such kind of performances were possible. So maybe to show people there's many different kinds of like burlesque and drag and that kind of thing. And a lot of people like didn't
Mm,
know that thing in Singapore. So maybe hopefully
mm.
getting people out there and showing people how I felt when I first saw a drag king.
Yeah, I think to talk about my context, I mean,
Mhm.
um, I think drag kings have always been for me about sort of uh, unpacking what being male is. And we
Mm, mm,
often always think about it as, masculinity. We often think of it as like uh, um, being and kind of thing. I think growing up, I had always been sort of more comfortable being masculine. Masculine of center, I think, is the vocabulary I found to describe this. Like growing up, we never had an idea of how to say this. You just always felt like you were weird, like you were not the same as
mm,
all these
mm.
other girls, around you. And
Yeah.
um, dragging for me was kind of being able to be comfortable with that and then being able to take it
Mm,
and running with it. Uh,
mm, mm,
being I agree, feeling proud of the fact that you were masculine, and I think for a
mm,
lot of people like me,
mm,
um, um, yeah, for a lot of people like me, it was a claiming of an identity. It was saying you can be beautiful being masculine.
mm. Yeah.
Um, you
Or like you
can
can be
have
being masculine. So
yeah, you there's some kind of there's a bit of desire that people desire in
mm,
some ways. I think a lot of times
yeah.
uh, you don't feel beautiful, or you don't feel accepted for the way you look, and then I think
Mm,
drag kinging has helped me get there. I don't think it started out as I think, and then it had the added like fun of sort of challenging the patriarchy.
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I know that's a very big concept, but I think the very existence of somebody who can be like considered a epitome of what handsome masculinity should be Certainly a lot of the older drag kings go for that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I think being able to sort of challenge and say, hey, somebody who looks like this, like I can make myself look like this, and I can be
Yeah.
accepted by the mainstream to a large degree.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
without all these layers of makeup, I look like something you would think is ugly. I think that's a big part of why there's that added sort of fun in doing that. Is that
Yeah.
I can challenge you
Yeah.
on that circumstance. And I
Yeah.
don't know, like just to answer Ray's question that's come up on the screen,
Yeah.
I don't know how to sort of directly answer that question. I think it's got something to do with the fact that I have breasts and a vagina, but I be more handsome than a lot of other, men. And I can be desired in a way. I think my very presence challenges the notion that only the, good-looking men and good-looking women are this. I don't know if it's parody. I'm trying to just get Southside Tingles has never my drag name is Southside Tingles, and I'm trying to turn myself into a creepy uncle.
Nice.
Um, and I think the patriarchy allows for creepy uncles to exist, and so the fact that I'm turning myself into one and I'm trying to show you this process, I think that's a parody in itself of what is acceptable and what is. Yeah. So that's my answer to you. If you want to take it up, you know how to find me. Yeah.
I think for me it's what do I do at first I think it was like parodying not just like masculinity but also like class and power because I was like how do I make fun of this guys who feel like the whole world's at their feet and they've never known anything else and just like sort of being that person and just making that person look foolish. And I think as things have gone on, I've become less interested in that. So I guess my way of parodying patriarchy is showing that like I can, in the body of like as a drag king, like I am in a sense striving for like total masculinity, and so aiming for that, but along the way seeing if I can get away with like, I guess wearing like rhinestone harnesses and embracing like
Mm-mm.
wearing eyelashes and just being like, I can be. So it's not so much like making fun of men, although I think that's very, very necessary, but also of like, making fun of like what men are expected to be. I feel like there's definitely a really valid thing of like drag kings, basically their characters huge misogynists or like huge douchebags, which is sort of what I was aiming for. And I think I've become less interested in that. I'm more
Mm.
interested maybe help, I don't know, providing inspiration for men or something. I don't know. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say that like my character tonight is sort of inspired by the idea that I can also glamorize a creepy uncle. And the whole idea of it being, for glamour and for like fabulousness, but then you're a
Yeah.
creepy uncle. I think it's got something to do with that as well.
Yeah.
It's about changing the way you think about the power structures that govern women, and sort of being able to. But is parodying patriarchy even a priority for you? Great question. Honestly, no. Uh,
Yeah.
I do this. I think for the lack of a better way of expressing, I do it a lot for myself. I do it a lot for my self-esteem. I do it a lot for just being able to um, large degree entertain, to a large being able to bring some kind of joy and laughter and love to, an audience. I think a lot of us kind of find joy in that more than anything else. So no, parodying patriarchy actually isn't even a priority for me in drag. But if you talk to me in terms of maybe in my practice as a practitioner, perhaps I'm not there yet, but I'm trying to get there, I think. Yeah.
I think, yeah, for me at first it was. I think at first I wanted drag king. I thought drag king had to be about yeah, parodying men and like yeah, making fun of men. And I realized that there's many other ways to have fun and to create art. And but I think it's just seeing a lot of other there's like drag kings. Like I don't. There's a lot of drag kings now who are doing impersonations of Donald Trump and like or Joe Exotic, which is great for them. Which is great for them.
Oh,
Or like
yeah.
people, yeah, and but it's
I feel
not
like
less
I feel like I
interested
want to
in.
say, yeah, I say this in response to that. Not everything is about men,
Yes,
and
exactly,
ironically,
exactly.
and ironically,
Yep.
being a drag king,
I,
I'm not performing for men. Um,
mm,
I'm not. I'm not here for your entertainment. To quote Pink, my favorite straight singer. But the idea is that this was never about entertaining men. Maybe in the early days when you talk about male impersonators who in the hall perform drag in the music halls and stuff like that, the audience was predominantly men for men.
mm,
But at this stage and where I'm doing it, and I think for a lot of people who are drag kings, it was never about performing for a man. So
mm.
yes. This do you have any goals you want to reach as a drag king, either personal or professional? Hi Nicole. Nicole is actually a drag king from Taipei, from Ireland, but based in Taipei.
Wow. Hi,
So I want to
Nicole.
shout out this is Nicole's persona is Roman Coke. I will
Oh,
show you some
nice.
pictures I think in a
Nice.
bit. But do you have any goals you want to reach as a drag king? I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one, Steph.
No. Uh, I think maybe. But I guess a far off dream would be to like, yes, have a drag king troupe, maybe, or
Yeah.
get
Come to
someone
Taipei.
to
We'll take you
start.
in.
Okay, nice. Get someone to start a drag king troupe because of me,
Yeah.
maybe. Don't have to. But no, it'd be nice to do like that, to do something like that. Maybe getting, yeah, ultimate dream would be like to just, yeah, get drag kings to be well known in Singapore, as like a respected art form, respected performance kind of thing.
Mm,
Get lots of people, lots of, I guess, yeah, especially young queer people realizing that they could be like drag kings as well. It'd be cool. For myself, I think, yeah, just being professional, less long-term professional goals. Learn to dance, learn to be better as a dancer, and better at makeup.
I have two left feet, so that's like I feel like unless somebody me how to dance, uh, that is actually definitely something that I would love to do.
Mm.
I think for me, um, I think my goal as a drag king, um, is to I think be in a troupe or like in a group of
Mm.
professional and regularly performing drag kings,
Mm.
who are also interested in more than just the lip sync or the like in the performance aspect. Like I think my interest has always been about how it feeds into the idea into theater or into how it becomes part of uh uh theater performance, because I've always kind of seen gender as not inherent to characters on stage, but
Oh, okay.
gender is merely a character trait that is part of a character. So being male is part of, for example, being Hamlet. And
Mm.
there is a trend of women playing Hamlet now, but I think for me the elements of drag that we know in this form, goal for me I think is to how it ties in theater. How we cast women in roles, cast AFAB actresses in
Mm.
roles traditionally for men, and how that challenges some of these roles, that we know so well. Recently, I actually read about like Uzo Adoba was
Yeah.
cast in a reading for Othello,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like I feel like how does my drag experience sort of feed into making decisions to cast traditionally AFAB people in map roles? I think that's my one of my goals. But on I think the other hand, definitely dancing is something I'm looking into. Like I want to do so many things. I want to take on so many characters. But then I always think about like shit. I cannot do like a drop. Like I cannot drop down on my knee and like do that whole like
Yeah.
Channing Tatum. Like I always wanted to do Channing Tatum doing Pony
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah,
Magic
yeah.
Mike, but my knees cannot take it. So uh,
You
I
could
guess
do
with some
like a
training and learning to dance,
slow motion, do a slow
I
motion
could do
version
that.
of that,
Yeah,
explaining that
exactly.
the creepy
Yeah,
uncle's knees aren't
exactly.
what they used to be.
Exactly. The knees cannot take it, right? And then just sort of go for that.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a
Next question
good
here.
question.
Mm.
Any shocking reactions while being a drag king or when you are in drag?
Experiences while being in drag.
During the work or reactions?
Uh, one of the
Other
very shocking things, my first few shocking things, I think, was the first time I saw myself in drag makeup. Because the first time I did a drag performance, I had somebody help me with my makeup. Shout out to Darice, Dan Demolition, who's also a drag king in Taipei. So they helped me with my makeup. And the first time I saw myself in drag makeup, I did not recognize myself. That was very shocking for me. On the level that I didn't know I could look like that. And I think generally people throwing money at you can also be quite shocking. I don't know what you mean by shocking or fun. Like if you want to comment that, I think
I
it's
guess shocking,
kind of yeah,
say shocking to
shocking
us
in
or
that.
shocking to the viewer.
Yeah,
I
I've
feel
seen
like,
some
yeah.
great.
Oh, go
I've
on.
seen
Go
some
on.
great performances that were really shocking.
Mm.
Like several of the King Cheer like to experiment with like I guess live theatrics. So we've had like
Oh, no.
vegetables being pulled out of like where we've had a drag king like sort of bleed like
Nice.
after a performance, like just like
Oh,
on
good.
purpose, like they had a like a blood
Yeah.
capsule
Yeah.
like in their mouth,
Nice.
and like, it's that those were quite shocking. Like, and you didn't realize what was happening. I've
Mm.
also seen several great performances. The quality of the performance, like the dance, like
Mm.
uh, just kind of takes it, and then yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by shocking. I haven't been in a situation where I was mistaken for a man or anything. If that's what you that's not something that's happened to me, but I know that happens to certain kings. I think sometimes audiences cannot believe that this person on stage is a woman by as AFAB by birth. I mean, and so that is also quite shocking for some people, I think. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, if you mean if I've been electrocuted while being a drag king, that's not something I'm ready to explore or like uh, have experienced in that sense. Yeah, it's hard. Like, what do you mean by shocking? I actually think that's the question, Robert. Z.
Mm. It's a good question.
If there, I feel like yeah, I think we are in the okay. I think we are. Possible to go back to that question? Yes. So I think we are in the business of perpetuating patriarchal stereotypes in order for us to show, I think, how
Yeah.
like the loopholes or how hollow or how ridiculous it can be. Like I can imagine Aloysius D is, that obnoxious
Yeah. Yeah.
uh that obnoxious sort of
Like rich douchebag type.
you will never like and you will never say it racist, but then I think in the context of like when Aloysius is there, you see it for what it is. You see it for So you need to kind of be that patriarchal stereotype in order to undo it, or to kind of show that it's hollow, or to show that it is problematic, I think.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if the creepy uncle that I'm about to transform into will go to do that. I hope so. I think the idea is that you need to go back to the stereotype in order to, you know,
Like satirize it in a sense. I guess also
yeah,
maybe
that's right.
there's the risk also of like in the same like ironic sexism in a sense
Oh
of
yeah,
like
for sure.
yeah. So I guess for my like I guess yeah for myself I've not done this. I mean there's also like drag kings with I know there's a thing about drag kings with name. I don't want to judge people, but there's a drag kings with like names like there's a like drag. I mean, okay, even Landon Cider, amazing
Landon,
drag king. Yeah,
I
but
love
again,
you, Landon.
yeah, he's so good. But like again, his name is like a pun on like land inside her. And there's so
Yeah.
many drag kings with the last name Cider. There's a drag king with the name Turner Straight, and
Turner Straight.
yeah, Turner, a great name, great name. But also, it's like when I first saw it, I was like, is that a violent name? Is that like to me, it's like made me think of violent. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of drag kings because they come from like a place of having a lot of not all but a lot of them like having experienced like the harms of patriarchy. And a lot of them are doing it as sort of like yeah to say fuck you to patriarchy. I think a lot of them know how to tread the line. A lot of them, if they go to extremes, they
Yeah.
don't want to. Yeah. And
I think the
yeah,
action of like when you mentioned the action of dressing as Donald Trump, or
mm, mm,
uh,
mm.
anyone in that sort of sense, the sort of ultimate goal
Yeah.
type.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and again, I think
you're here.
most people who dress as Donald Trump are meant hate him. But I think summed up on myself personally
Hmm.
is just like sick of seeing the face, and I don't know what like people are already parodying him nonstop in that cartoon, so I don't know how
Hmm.
that will help bring him
I'm sorry.
down. But anyway,
This is my creepy uncle mustache.
nice.
Part of the look. I'm also just lazy to draw one, so also it would take a lot of time, and we don't have a lot of time. As non-binary kings, how does kinging interact with your gender feelings, if any? Um, Hi, Jaden. Jaden is also a king in Taipei. Goes by the name of Man Bao Bao. So shout out to Jaden as well. We have so many fans online tonight. uh, Non-binary kings, how does it interact with your gender? Mm, I think it's definitely the freedom to go both ways. I think into how I don't know how to answer this question. Save me, Steph.
It's interesting because like I'm also a drag queen, and in a weird way, doing both has really helped me. I don't know, think about who I am in terms of gender, and yeah, and I think kinging made me realize that a lot of how much of like yeah, gender is actually learned mannerisms. I didn't expect being a drag king to be as hard as it was, like having to learn all these different things. And I realized that, yeah, I thought that would be really easy to parody a man, but I realized there's so much that I didn't know about the nuances of movement and even
Mm,
like
yeah.
structure. And so I realized, yeah, that I guess like masculinity and like being a man is a lot of it is, I mean, it is important to me for sure, and it's but a lot of it is also a bunch of like actions. And I think for a long time I think I sort of had this like insecurity that I would never be butch enough in a sense to like
Mhm.
be a butch lesbian or something, or like yeah, or be to look butch, or I wanted to when I was young. And then I realized when I did drag, like as a drag king, I was like going to so much of the extreme that I realized that it was at some point I realized it's up to me how much of this I chose to use, and how much while still being true to who I am.
Hmm. I
So
think
in
I
a
think I
way,
want to respond. Yeah.
mm, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to respond to that butch thing because I think
Yeah.
for the longest time in my life, I also felt I wasn't butch enough.
Yeah.
Uh, I know that might come as a shock to some people who know me, but I think what being non-binary and being a king, playing this character really helps to sort of uh, like make me stop asking what it means to be butch enough and just be. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
knowing that I can just be, I think, is such an important part of the king of
Mm, mm,
kinging, and such an important part
mm.
of finding the comfort being
Yeah.
um being butch, in some ways.
Mm.
Ah, this is an interesting question. Who are some drag kings that inspired you?
Okay. We have
Um,
we prepared a slideshow, or the amazing
yeah,
people of Teamwork helped us prepare a
our keywords
slideshow.
have helped us prepare a slideshow. Do you want me to, I can go first actually on this one,
Yeah,
and I'll just
sure.
take you through. I also want to take the opportunity to introduce you to some of the kings based in Taipei.
Oh, yeah.
A large part of my presentation. It's just really pictures. This picture is Vesta Tilly. Just to kind of go back to the origins of drag kings and impersonation. Vesta Tilly was one of the first few very successful um, drag kings. Well, at that time, male impersonators. Sorry. And this is her in drag of drag. The comparison photos, and I think an interesting fact about her was that she eventually retired from being like she was a very famous, very successful male impersonator, but eventually she married a British MP, and so she had to give up her performing in sort of maintain some sort of decorum, and like it was just not seen as proper for her to be doing this. Uh, but she's one of the uh, um, sort of traditionally, from a long time ago, she's one of the people who started this in that form. If we can go to the next, uh, this is my favorite. Like for the first time I encountered a drag king that was like for me, like the most inspiring. This is Spiky Van Dyke, and I love Spiky because Spiky's like
Well, he's
Spiky's
hot.
so over the top. Spiky is
Yeah.
hot. I don't know if the next picture. Let me just check. If we go on to the next picture, yeah, the next picture you see Spiky even more. I mean, look at that. And Spiky is one of the performers who does a lot of open chest and
Mm.
topless performances. And you might ask, like, how is that possible? Spike does the binding. Like Spiky doesn't hide the binding. Spiky actually binding of the breast as embellishments. Like makes it look like a tattoo or draws on like
Mm.
really sort of interesting, intricate things. And
He designs his own like bind. So
yeah,
like
he does his own binding and things, and I really appreciated that in a sense. Like I've always wondered what it would be like to perform topless. Being
Mm.
topless is one of those things that women don't 100% enjoy. Don't have the privilege to do, not enjoy. I think we all enjoy it. Well, binary. Uh, Spiky, for me was the sort of this was possible. Spiky's act was very much uh strip, like it was very in the strip
Mm. It's a
um
striptease.
strip tease kind of thing, and to see a AFAB performer doing that, I think for
Mm.
me, Spiky is one of the inspirations. And also Spiky grew up with their mustache, the rainbow hair, and the crazy sort of OTT things, and I think that is one of the aspirations for me in some degree. If we can go to the next slide, this is also somebody who me, although I don't know how long it will take me to get there. This is Androgen. Androgen does really sort of full face, uh, you know, mythical characters, horror, gore, all sorts of
Mm.
stuff. This is an aspiration. I don't know if I'll ever get there. I'm already sort of not great with makeup, but
Well,
I think
everyone starts
today's
somewhere.
look is sort of I'm trying to push beyond just like a normal drag king look. Nowhere near what Androgen is doing, but then of course, check Androgen out on Instagram. I really think it's worth sort of looking at what they do. Next slide, please. Ha. This is Wang Newton. Um, Wang Newton is also a Taiwanese drag king who's based in the state. Where exactly? But I just thought I needed to shout out to Wang Newton because Wang Newton is one of the few Asian kings that we know. Uh, as you can tell, there are not a lot of Asian kings, um, and Wang was one of the OG Asian stereotype, like totally like kung fu master, like they played a lot with the Asian.
Like a creepy uncle himself.
Creepy. He's the original creepy uncle, so I think there is some. I need to shout out to Wang Newton. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, this is Sawyer Darling, who I mentioned early on in this chat, and Sawyer is the original Taipei drag king daddy for me because they sort of inspired so many of the drag kings that I'm about to mention in the course of this. We can go to the next picture. I think it's still Sawyer. Yeah, so Sawyer has all sorts of different looks. Sawyer's the original rhinestone cowboy, but also they have looks like this. And next picture. Next picture, please. Yeah, and Sawyer also does some, pretty interesting looks. Sawyer has some Scottish descent, if I'm not wrong. And so Sawyer walks around, I think, with a kilt sometimes. And it's just great to kind of, see like a different take on that. Next picture, please. I'm just really going to be introducing all these. Now, Top Pokey. This is Top Pokey. Top Pokey is also, I think, one of the important drag king figures in the Taipei drag scene. Is have regular shows, functions sometimes as our manager. But Top also has to do a lot of sort of Adam Lambert inspired drag king looks, and it's glam and hardcore, and it's great. I think the next picture is also still Top. If we can go. So fishnets, heavy metal, boots, black leather. This was you're gonna see some photos that are of the same series. They were from the same performance. It was the first time the drags were invited to a event. If we go to the next picture, I think I'll just talk more about that. This is Doris Dan Demolition, who did my makeup for the first time when I performed. And Doris, Dan is also, Dan likes to do heavy metal in performance. And we often joke about how nobody knows what they're singing about, but then everybody sort of goes wild anyway. So, what the heck. The next picture, I think, is also still Dan. Yeah, and then all of the few kings who also sort of dabbles in open top and not even bothering actually to bind or hide their breasts, so you see it very clearly, and then with the X on top of it as a tape, I think that kind of, I don't think it takes away from the illusion. I think it kind of just makes it, even more exciting in some senses. Next picture, please. This is Poke, earlier sort of experiments, I think, as before Roman actually became Roman, I think. And the next picture is also still Roman. So Roman is interesting because Roman, Roman is a self-professed gay man entertainer, and he does a lot of Freddie Mercury, Elton John, all the queens. And I just think it's an interesting take on when you drag as a gay man, the politics that also changes. So
Yeah.
I respect and Roman is such a great dancer. Like I always love Roman like tap or like just dance their heart out, and I think like that's freaking like brilliant. Next picture, please. This is Luca Distraction. You know, and I kind of just I really enjoy Luca's work because Luca is an artist by training, and so it shows in their makeup. If we see the next picture, you will see some of the more intricate work that Luca does. And Luca's drag looks are often very artistic, and I think I would love to learn from their ways and like be like senpai, please teach me so that I don't look like a creepy uncle all the time. Next picture. This is Man Bao Bao. Man Bao Bao is I don't know how to describe Man Bao Bao, but Man Bao Bao is if we look at the next picture, I think it's a better, clearer idea of what Man Bao Bao's persona is like. Man Bao Bao was. Can we see the next picture? Man Bao Bao this is Man Bao Bao pulling out veg from their underwear. Man Bao Bao is interesting because Man Bao Bao tries to do Chinese, well, not Chinese, Mandarin songs in their as part of their drag acts. So they've done I don't know what's the English name, but Zhang Zhenyue, who is like the original Chinese bad boy of music, I guess. And Man Bao Bao is the only king in all the Taipei drag king group, all the people you've met tonight, who was born and raised in Taiwan. And yeah, and Man Bao Bao kind of tries to wears I think that Taiwanese pride out and proud, and also in the name, because Bao actually is Mandarin slang for female genitalia. So other than just being a man baby, like if there's a man, and a vagina and genitalia and stuff, I think mangina essentially, yeah. Next picture, please. And I just wanted to throw this picture in because this is one of the sort of drag salons that we have done in Taipei. And it really is just a bunch of people coming together and, getting into costume and putting on makeup and sort of exploring different identities. And like this is something I hope that we can actually eventually more of in the future. But I just wanted to share like this picture, which I think is great because a lot of these people, the kings that you saw today, in the pictures that I've shared today, are here. Oh, Man Bao Bao is about to enter into. This is about sharing with me.
Popped out from behind the picture.
Also in full makeup, popped out from behind the picture like a potato. Yeah, but that's me. That's my inspiration. I want to hear about your stuff.
Okay. It was actually really hard to find just because there's too many.
Yeah.
Okay, so let it rip. So this is a Singapore drag king called Papa Cherry.
Papa Cherry.
Who is from actually, could you slow it down? I'm really sorry. That was Papa Cherry. This is Landon Cider, who is the first drag king to have won a reality show about drag. Okay, so this is Papa Cherry, and in basically doing a Book of Mormon number, and performs at Riot, the monthly drag review run by Becca DeBus, and basically is incredible. Taught me a lot about being a drag king. And so also
Papa
trained
Cherry was the first drag king I met too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, trained dancer.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. And yeah, helped to set up a drag collective. So he wasn't always a drag king, but helped to set up a drag king collective before he became a drag king. She became a drag king, and one of the people in the drag collective is basically is Landon Cider, and so there's this like incredible connection, and you can basically was in the Landon Cider, does many looks, entirely self-taught makeup. This is one of his looks from the show Dragula, which is a sort of alternative-ish, alternative drag race in a sense, like a horror gore themed reality show. and basically, first drag king on the show, and won the whole thing, won the whole season, and was just really
Yeah,
incredible.
London's looks are really out of this world. I love it.
Okay, you can go to the next one. This is Chio.
Are you
who is
gluing
an
something on?
Yes, eyelashes. I'm gonna try.
Nice.
This is Theo, who is non-binary drag king from London in the UK, and does a lot of really political stuff, really political drag. Actually, he got into drag actually through sex work, and as you can see, he's had this is a picture I took just after he got top surgery, and does a lot of like really powerful, really emotional stuff. Talks a lot about like race and class and gender in his acts, and is one of the top drag kings in the UK. Okay, go to the next one.
Oh, Wayne Newton.
Yes, again I got Wang Newton. Again, there's basically sort of a pioneering Asian drag king. I will say his stuff is not for everyone, I think, because he does it again. The irony thing, he does like an ironically bad Asian accent, and it's always kind of like a bit creepy. So, but again, stuff is like very ironic. Okay, so go to the next one. This is Hugo Girl in basically doing in a Pride performance. You can go to the next one, slightly better one of Hugo Girl. It's basically a trans guy and incredible at makeup. Won a whole like international online drag competition based in New Zealand, and amazing dancer. And okay, you can go to the next one. This is Rose Butch, who actually is not really a drag king, but a drag. They call them a drag thing, a non-binary drag thing.
Drag thing.
And,
I like that.
Yeah, and they are from Vancouver in Canada, and half Japanese, and basically, just do a lot of like super glam, super feminine, gender fucking stuff.
Super
Often
cool.
with like a white face and like a mustache. And again, that is Rose Butch. Really incredible stuff. Sometimes performs in dresses also. And so those are some of my inspirations, but by no means a full list.
So I am done. Have now transformed into my creepy uncle with comb in pocket.
Nice.
It's the Southside Tingles.
Yeah, Aloysius D.
And Aloysius D is in full on makeup. I actually am wearing like shorts. You probably can't see it, like basketball to complete the look. That are a little bit too tight. And I think this.
Adding my own hair.
Oh, your own hair, yes, for the facial hair thing.
Yeah, I decided I don't want to do a beard, but I shaved parts of my hair to make this, and I did it today. So I figured I may as well use it. But yeah.
Do you like shave it on your own, or do you go somewhere and then ask them to collect your hair for you?
Some places
Nice.
I have got to collect, but mostly it's easy to collect my own. Yeah. Here we have.
So we have about like 15 minutes left to kind of, continue this discussion. I wonder if there are any questions, any more questions? Yeah, any more other questions from people? Now for Creepy Uncle Southside Tingles. So, and Aloysius D, if you have any questions, maybe just now I think we missed one question, which was about
masculinity and like body types or something.
I don't remember. I don't know if I can find it. But if you have any more questions for us, please, feel free to ask and talk about it. I have to hold my mic because my shirt keeps rubbing against. You know what? I'm just not gonna move. And just be like, if you want to take a screenshot, now would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Describe the drag king
characters for us. Southside Tingles, I'll go because I think I'll give Steph a chance to finish with Aloysius D. I don't know if Southside has a very defined character. Southside began as a Frank Sinatra impersonator. But I think in preparation for, I'm still developing this character, but I think what I want to do is kind of, in a sense, glamorize this sort of, not creepy, but like this sort of stereotype of a man who, thinks a lot about things that people don't want to think about and people should not think about. Um, and I think, in a sense, Southside Tingles constantly evolving. Um, and I basically just pick a specific stereotype or a specific thing that I want to um, become, and then try and figure out how the makeup works. So Southside, I think, is still a work in progress. Southside can do the crooning, the smooth, whiskey drinking, Frank Sinatra singing, King. But I think Southside also has a part of him that wants to sort of uh, just be this, super confident, masculine, like kind of man, and like has an interest in the ladies and wants to, you know, with consent, do interesting things to them. Let's put it that way. Yeah. How about Aloysius D? I mean, we've talked about Aloysius D, but
Yeah, so
maybe.
I described Aloysius um in a in my like I wrote a new bio for him when I realized that it was no longer just a douchebag. So I said he self-identifies as a recovering douchebag, and he says he swears he's trying to exit to like be less patriarchal and and is trying to convince you that wearing eye makeup makes him less problematic. So
I like that. Keep it up,
okay.
Aloysius.
Okay.
I think
He will try. He's
we
just
will
trying
try
his
our
best.
best
He's
to
always
be.
trying his best. Yeah.
He's always trying his best.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got an interesting question. What do you think about the relationship between weight and stereotypical masculinity? Do you mean in terms of mm, it
Okay, I
being
guess
bigger?
one thing. I mean, I think there's weight and there's also like shape. I guess like in some
Mm,
ways, then people have it easier. On the other hand, like yeah, like can't have it's called like men with like can't have boobs, can't have like if they have too much weight on the hips, etc. They're considered like this less masculine if your weight doesn't distribute like a like yeah people expect it to. So I mean, I thought in a sense like in some way, sometimes I did think like, are my hips too big to be like a proper drag king? But then I thought, in the same way that like muscular drag queens, I've heard like muscular drag queens have been inspiration for like muscular women. Like I mean, there's muscular drag queens who say that like women have sent them messages thanking them for like showing you can be feminine and muscular. I think in a sense, I like to think that maybe drag kings can open up the possibility that you don't need to look a certain way to be a man, or you don't need to look a certain way to yeah.
I just wanted to respond. I think the idea that a dad bod is acceptable, but a mom bod, I don't
Yeah,
know, the discussion about dad bods and the
yeah.
whole, how dad bods are sexy and stuff. Uh, I think it definitely has to do with the fact that we give, uh, we don't kind of I guess weight also brings about this idea of like being sort of bigger, being more
Mm-hmm.
stocky, more of like I guess fat, and
Yeah.
I think as someone grown up those issues in my life, I think it's I don't know. Like I also want to be like Spiky Van Dyke 6 pack, super like fit and stuff like that. But I think I think recognizing that, I don't have the pressure to be a specific body shape or a specific weight for somebody, I think has really helped. And I think in drag king, I've been able to sort of like, get away from. We have another question. Is your drag performance confined to the stage or screen? Does it exist outside of those spaces? Uh, hmm. I would like to, I think.
Mm.
I know of kings who sometimes just walk around Taipei City in drag for fun. Sometimes we get together and do our makeup before going to a drag event together, just to sort of in that journey on public transport, just sort of being in public in our drag personas. I think
Mm.
that's as far as it goes. Most of the time, it is in preparation for the stage, but then we sometimes purposely take the Taipei Metro dressed as our drag personas, and I think we do this just to kind of give it like a. We get stares. We get people. Man Baba was leaving my apartment once, and this kid was coming up the stairs, and was and this mom was sort of very amused. This kid was really amused by Man Baba, and then this mom was like, "Oh, look, they're going to some kind of event or anything." And we just sort of were friendly and just kind of interact with this kid. Yeah.
I think
So
yeah. For
that's pretty
myself,
much.
I don't. I think I don't yet have the confidence um, to go outside in and like perform in real life and improvise in real life in drag. Something I want to work up to. Okay,
Mm.
Carol, asked a bimbo question. What do you use to wash off your makeup? Just very not good for the environment. I like to use wipes, makeup wipes, and yeah, if I sometimes I use
I just
the
have
big.
this, yeah, like a standard Watson's, um, it's also not a bimbo question. It's actually
Yeah,
just very standard makeup stuff that we're using, and so like a standard makeup,
pragmatic
like it's
pragmatic
a very
question.
pragmatic question. Yeah, we've just been told that we have time for one more question.
Last question.
Uh, if anybody has a question, otherwise we can ask ourselves questions. Now that we have formed into this character for you. Uh, no questions. Ah,
Not dish
not dish
detergent.
detergent.
It
That's
depends
actually
on
quite
where
useful
I am.
to get makeup off your clothes. To get makeup off your clothes, detergent, home remedy where you use detergent
Mm,
and like rub it before to the.
mm.
Curious about
Oh,
your thoughts on Takarazuka. Oh, yes.
so
For people who have no context about it, I think we should probably set the context about it. Takarazuka is the Japanese all female review, based I think outside of Tokyo, not actually in Tokyo, right?
okay.
Uh, oh, interesting. I think Takarazuka is there's so many layers to Takarazuka, but I will always champion uh, an all female cast
Mm,
and all AFAB cast. Let's put it that way. Um, but I think
I don't know.
Takarazuka.
Yeah, I don't know enough to comment, but just from my
Uh,
very limited knowledge and just seeing pictures, like it's yeah. For me, when I first discovered them, it was like, oh wow, there is an Asian tradition of like celebrating like female masculinity or female androgyny in a sense. And that like, blew my mind.
but I also feel like it still falls within a binary.
Mm,
Um, there's still there's there's a there's still a masculine, feminine, male, female,
mm,
uh, male hero and female romantic lead situation
definitely.
in those things. But I do think that it has its transgressive power in the fact that these women get to build careers out
Mm,
of you know performing as uh, performing these characters that
mm,
are not traditionally accessible to them. And I think under that circumstance, it is something to be um, celebrated. But
mhm.
I feel like Brazuca conversation. Claire, if you're interested, you can get in contact with me, and I think it'd be something that I want to talk about even more because I think there's so many things we would miss just by
Mm,
talking about it in passing here. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So we've just got the cue to wrap up
Correct.
this conversation.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, this is going to be recorded on the T-Works Facebook page and YouTube channel, and so definitely check it out if they can. And yes, we're going to be another.
Yeah.
So the part of the now Not Ordinary Work Festival for T-Works, and so yeah, there's going to be an entire one more week of events all online. So check it out. Come do like the page, like the YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and yeah, come back and watch, get involved and stuff, because it's a really amazing festival. And
Yeah.
just want to thank T-Works for having us on. It's been a huge honor.
And thank you everybody who was tuning in on Facebook and YouTube for spending this hour and a half watch us. Something that we really enjoy, and also thank you for your questions, and thank you for just the interest in drag kings. Drag kings, are underrepresented, and I think thank you to T-Works and thank you to Norlina who programmed us to talk about it tonight. If you're interested in anything that you want to talk about, I think Steph and I reach over Facebook, and if you wanted to chat, we're happy to talk more. I think thank you very much for putting us on.
Thank you for putting us on, and have a great rest of your night.
And thank you very much. Oh, good night, and we're signing out. Oh, so just before, if you're interested in any of the kings that we talked about tonight, and especially the Taipei kings, somebody has just shared some Instagram links that you can go and check them out. And if when travel resumes and if you ever come to Taipei, they always use your support. Okay, so I guess that's about it. Thank you, Steph.
Yeah.
Thank you for let me know about anything that we can collaborate on together.
For sure.
And I guess we just.
I guess we log out. Log out now. Yeah.
This is
signing out.
Southside Tingles signing off. And I think we should log out together. Okay, we're gonna get crossed out. Bye.